Good afternoon. It's good to be with you again. Last week we we were discussing resource management and survival strategies during the COVID-19 crisis. And we took comfort in the fact that with us is the Lord our God to help us. And so we want to continue this week. And there are a few comments and questions by concerned individuals worth considering. So I'm going to go through them and trust that they'll be very clear to us. First one is, everything is going down, including the value of the dollar. Now, yes, that is true. Everything is going down, including the value of the dollar. We need to be self-sufficient and also to seek opportunities. This is very important for us to understand that with every crisis, there are opportunities. And although because of the crisis, things are going down and our dollar is sliding, it is important we look out for the opportunities, grasp them, rather than getting into a state of panic. The next statement is tourism is gone to the dogs. And my response to that is that, yes, it's gone to the dogs because the borders are closed, not only in Jamaica, but around the world. But this also will bounce back because Jamaica is one of the best tourist locations. What you'll find is that as soon as the crisis is over and the borders start opening up, the Europeans and the North Americans and South Americans are going to be anxiously looking for somewhere to cool off. And what better place than Jamaica? So let us not panic, but let us be ready when the bounce back comes. This is why you'll find our Prime Minister is making every effort, as he kept saying, that he wants to open the country in time so that when the bounce back comes, Jamaica will be right up front, ready to reap its share. Thirdly, unemployment is rising, and so also is the cost of living. Yes, and that is true, because as I had mentioned last week, there are about 80% of the economy in most countries is controlled by small and medium-sized businesses. And these are the businesses that are hardest hit at the beginning of the crisis. And so they have been laying off staff or closing down, and some of the larger corporations also doing the same. I know of one company that employed some 900 persons, and they laid off one shot 270. And so we find that, yes, there are a lot of people now unemployed, but again, as I mentioned earlier on, they need not panic, but they need to seek opportunities and take hold of them. For instance, at the early beginning of this crisis, there was a tremendous demand for masks and sanitation products, and some of those laid off were smart enough to get involved in manufacturing masks and sanitation products. Those who didn't do that, you have to bear in mind, there are opportunities, just look for them. The report is that the US, on a longer term basis, the US is now, we are told, having a food shortage and a shortage of several other items that they normally import from China because of the Cold War with China. So here is an opportunity for Jamaica to get busy in exporting to the US, and we'll have several benefits from that, in that it will help to strengthen the value of our currency and of course, help with the unemployment situation. Next comment was as a question: will our pension funds be useful? There has been a reduction in the value of the pension funds. And so if you're retiring now or shortly, then the funds will not be available to give you the type of pension that you had expected prior to COVID. However, because it is a long-term thing, generally those who are not retiring now will hardly see any adverse effects on their fund because of the crisis. The next one was our investment in stocks and shares have gone down some 26% since January. And that was verified by the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And that is true. Stocks and shares are definitely long-term investments. And jewels like this usually corrects themselves over a 5-year period. So expert advice is to buy when the market is down and sell when it is up. Some people have a way, the moment they hear that the market is down, they rush to sell whatever shares they had and to cut their losses, they would say. But not so with long-term investments. If you just leave it there, it will rise again and rise way above, and then you will have regrets at having sold. So when the market is down, that's not the time to sell, that's the time to buy. And if you have additional funds, buy some of the cheaper stocks. And when the price rises, you will gain. For instance, let's take any stock. Let's just say Grace Kennedy shares, and just assume that pre-COVID it was valued at $100 per stock, and with COVID it went down to 70. If you rush and sell it, you would have lost $30 on each of your shares. Whereas if you let it remain, as soon as it bounces back, you would have lost nothing. But also if you had extra funds and you bought some at 70, you would have gained, when it bounces back, you would have gained some 42% in a short space of time. So bear that in mind. But it's always important when it comes to stocks and shares to take advice from the experts. Don't just go and buy any stock, because if you're not trained in that field, what you might find is you make the wrong decisions. And then the second to last of the questions I have is, what do we do when we can't pay our mortgage? Now that's a serious one, because nobody wants to lose their homes. And I would like to advise everyone, even those who have not yet started earning, to make certain that you have some savings. Whatever is your earnings, put away something for emergency. The advice is that you should have savings up to at least 3 months of your normal monthly expenses. And you should put this aside, touch it only in a case of emergency, like the one we're having now. And so you would not have a problem paying your mortgage. The hope is that normally the crisis usually don't go beyond 3 months. So you should at least put aside 3 months of your monthly expenses in the form of emergency savings. And you shouldn't save it on your mattress. And because if you have a fire and burn it up, that's it. Or burglars come in and take it out. Also, be careful. There are some banks that when you have money in there and you're not troubling it, they keep charging fees and eat it out. And by the time you're ready for it, nothing is there. Be careful to look out for those banks, and don't put your emergency fund with those banks. I know that Building Society, VNBS advertise that they don't do that. So you find somewhere that your money is safe and it will earn a little bit while it's there. And finally, how about my financial goals? Yes, every one of us should have some sort of financial goal, deciding what we would like to do at what age and how much we want to spend. Now, whenever a crisis comes up, it is important to look again at the impact on your financial goal. You might have to tweak the goal a little bit, or you might have to make major changes. But it's important that we all have financial goals, and it's important that we plan and implement in accordance with our goals. I know the Lord is going to see us through. He's with us, and with him, nothing is impossible. So cheer up and never allow a crisis to get you down, but rejoice in the Lord as he opens up the opportunities. Over to you now, my brother, as God's messenger comes to us with the message.